Thank you all so much for being here today on this day that we celebrate Mr. John D. Price. I'm Demetrius Liggins, Superintendent of Schools, and thank you for coming out for this momentous occasion. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce a few individuals. First, I'd like to introduce the current board members that are in attendance. We have our Vice Chair, Amy Green, and board member Stephanie Spires who are here. Thank you all for joining us. In their absence, we have Chair of the Board, Tyler Murphy, Member Tom Jones, and Christy Spires. Morris. I'm sorry, Christy Morris. Also, I'd like to welcome former board members, Melissa Bacon, Doug Barnett, Ray Daniels, Amanda Ferguson, Darrell Love, Becky Sagan, and Kirk Tinsley. In addition, we also have former acting superintendent Marlene Helm and former superintendent Tom Shelton is here today. I haven't had a chance to see him yet. All righty, hello, sir. So thank you for taking time for this very important occasion. Melissa Bacon, who is a former chair and vice chair of the board, who served with John Price for many years, will be our MC today. And she will share a special message from former Superintendent Stu Stilberman. So with no further ado, Ms. Bacon.
Thanks, and thanks, Dr. Liggins. It's an honor and privilege to be here today. And it's great to see so many familiar faces. I miss you all so much. You know, it was really just heartwarming to be able to work with each of you. We had a lot of partnerships and did a lot of work to further and do what's right for students and then move our district forward. It's just wonderful. I wanted to take a moment and introduce some more special guests. This morning, we have Dr. C.B. Akins. All of these people have been incredible community partners of ours for years and years and years, and also helped us tremendously in moving our district forward. And Roz, of course, his wife, is busy taking the guys on a field trip, so that's just like her. We also have Dr. Steve Angelucci, who is former president of Lexington Catholic and one of John Price's friends, who also worked together with us to heal some of the things that between our schools and just has done a wonderful job. Kamisha Boyd-Powell, who is the current equity chair. Jessica Heiler, I haven't seen Jessica. She is our FCEA president. And Alan Stein. He chaired many, many tireless committees to also absolutely vital to our district. So thank you all so much for being our community partners. It's great to have that relationship together to just do and move the district forward. It's only fitting for this administration building to be named after John Price. I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment and share how important, and I have my Kleenex. They know if I'm up here, I'm gonna get sentimental. Heidi used to have Kleenex for me behind stage. Darrell Love would hand me his handkerchief, and I, got it all dirty one time, and I go, oh, I'll take it home and wash it. He goes, just keep it. So they know I get sentimental, sorry. All right, I would be remiss if I didn't mention how important it was for Manny Koch to make sure that this building was named after John Price. It was one of his last orders of business to make sure John was honored in this way. I watched two incredible men of faith fight their cancer battles together, supporting, sharing, and praying for each other. Okay, now I'll read remarks from Stu Silberman as he could not be with us today. I'm sorry I cannot be with you all today for this celebration, but I'm happy to be able to share these thoughts. On very rare occasions, I've had individuals come into my life who have significantly had a positive impact on us all. John Price was one of those individuals. As an outstanding husband and father and brother, John was a man of honesty and integrity who served tirelessly for the greater good. He entered our service to schools through the PTA and site-based councils. In those organizations, he rose very quickly to important roles as people respected and recognized the leadership and talents of John. John was a soft-spoken, very calm leader who always did what was right. The combination of his demeanor, honesty, integrity, and hard work is what caused all of us to look up and respect John. John was the epitome of the Mark Twain saying, "Always do right. It would amaze some people and astonish the rest." In our 7 years together, he never once veered from doing what was right. During the great times, John was the first one to give out credit, and during the tough times, the first one to accept responsibility. John was a mediator who always worked very hard to diffuse conflict. I remember times where his patience was far beyond what most of us could imagine, no matter how difficult the situation or how it impacted him personally. He stayed the course to do what was best for kids. He was also very persistent in moving us toward our goals and asked the hard questions to get us there. His questions were never demeaning or threatening, but he made you think and you knew he meant business. Many say it's all about the kids. John walked that talk. He cared deeply about all kids and was committed to equity. His longtime service on the Equity Council helped make the connection between the Board of Education and the community in meeting the needs of all kids. He constantly worked to ensure all kids had opportunities that would not allow them to be left behind. When he made an Equity Council report to the board, everyone took the recommendations seriously. Equity was definitely one of John's top priorities. As I look back at my time in Fayette County, I will always know I was blessed to have John Price on our board and in my life. John was a leader in a category of his own, and we were all blessed to have John Price in our lives. The naming of this building after John is one of the most well-deserved honors I have observed during my time. God's blessings to you all. Now let's welcome Audrey Weber, a senior vocal major at SCAPA at Lafayette High School. She is also in the pre-engineering program and plays on the varsity lacrosse team. Audrey plans to major in music education at the College Conservatory of Music at the University of Cincinnati. She will now sing My Old Kentucky Home, and then afterwards, former 16th District PTA President Alice Nelson will come forward for a special presentation. Alice retired from Fayette County as our early childhood, family, and community coordinator. I'll hand it over to Audrey.
The sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home. 'Tis summer, the people are gay. The corn tops ripe and the meadows in the bloom, while the birds make music all the day. Weep no more, my ladies, oh, weep no more today. We will sing one song for my old Kentucky home, for my old Kentucky home far away.
Thank you so much, Audrey. How beautiful. Myself, like many of us here, got to know John Price through his leadership with 16th District PTA. We have several of our former district PTA presidents here today, and I'd just like to take a moment to recognize them. Tina Moorhead, Becky Sagan, who went from PTA to the board, just like John, Kathy Smiley. I have several others listed, but I don't think they're here. Jessica Berry, Debbie Bowen, there's Miss Debbie, Judy Conrad and Liza Holland. There are others in the room also that spent time with District PTA that didn't happen to do the president role, but did plenty of other things and went onto the board, Kirk Tinsley being one of those. Anyway, I'm here on behalf of our mayor, Linda Gorton. Linda, like many of us, also began her friendship with John Price through District PTA, serving with him, as many of us did there, and went on to, as we know, city council and mayor. Linda was extremely upset that she could not be here today and has asked us to read this proclamation for her. In memoriam. Whereas John D. Price died on February 23, 2016, and whereas a longtime Lexington resident, Mr. Price demonstrated his spirit for servant leadership in many ways throughout his life. And whereas an accountant by trade, Mr. Price mentored young people and created opportunities for them to learn and grow. And whereas Mr. Price served as a member and chair of the Fayette County Schools Board of Education and as a member of the Equity Council. And whereas Mr. Price believed everyone in our community deserves quality housing, he was a founding board member of Housing Equality for All Lexington. And whereas Mr. Price's work for Lexington's young people and for those less fortunate will not be forgotten. Now, therefore, I, Linda Gorton, Mayor of Lexington, do hereby declare April 19th, 2022, John D. Price Day in Lexington. Linda Gorton, Mayor. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Audrey and Alice. I think John would really not want all this pomp and circumstance, but we're doing it anyway because it's well-deserved. Now let's meet the portrait artist, who just happens to be John's sister. She will share some thoughts from their family and then unveil the portrait that will hang in the foyer here. Please welcome Janella Price Lau.
Gee, I got to follow all that. Good morning. I was asked to introduce some of the family that were here in John's honor. My sister, our sister, and her children, and daughter-in-law, and my daughter, and her husband, and my husband, and a great family friend, Jane. Her and John were really good pals. And then his business partners are also here from Price Stagner. So, okay. Good morning. I already said that, didn't I? Just over a year ago, Myron Thompson, the Chief Operation Officer for Fayette County Schools, emailed me a picture of the front of the Board of Education John D. Price Administration Building. The next thing I know, I've offered to paint a portrait. So having John's name on the Board of Education building is an honor, and to be allowed to paint my brother's portrait to be displayed here is a privilege. As many of you probably know, there were efforts to have a couple of Fayette County schools named for John, and those attempts did not come to fruition. And being the humble man he was, he would have thought those were really crazy ideas to start with. John did feel deeply that every student deserves a quality education, every student. His years on the board saw him striving to find innovative ways to do that. Sometimes doors would close on those avenues, but as the saying goes, when one door closes, another one opens. The doors of closing a school in John's honor closed, but another door did open. Manny Kalk proposed and persevered to name this building for him. Given John's role on the school board as being a factor of the children attending Fayette County Public Schools, it seems appropriate that his name be associated with the administration building where decisions impacting the students are made. John believed in "it's about the kids" in Fayette County with all his heart. He worked diligently to find ways to provide all children access to a quality education. Many thanks to all who served alongside John and to the school board who worked tirelessly toward that goal. It's good to see many of you here today. In addition, appreciation and thanks go to the current board members who have been named, but I'll name them again. The chair, Tyler Murphy, vice chair, Amy Green, board members Tom Jones, Christy Morris, Stephanie Spires, for allowing me to create and present this likeness of the longtime chair of the school board. And also a thank you to Heidi Ryan for her help in getting it done. I hope you see in his portrait the positive attitude, the fun sense of humor, and the outgoing personality that was John D. Price.
Okay, people. Whew. What an incredible tribute to John, and how special it is that you are able to paint that portrait and welcome to his family. Becky Sagan, who worked alongside John for many years and served as board chair, will now close with some final words about what John meant to Fayette County Public Schools.
Thank you and good morning. It's exciting to be in this wonderful new building and have this gorgeous portrait of John. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the personal side of John. We've heard a lot about the professional side, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the John that I knew for over 30 years. I first met him when he was a parent volunteer at his daughter Courtney's elementary school. SBDM councils were brand new in the state of Kentucky, and of course, John, being John, said yes, got involved, and was interviewed on TV about the role of the parent in SBDM councils. I was a young mom with my oldest child just starting school, saw that interview and thought, I want to do something. I want to get involved. So I did. I got involved at my daughter's school. Our paths continued to intertwine through all the volunteer work that we did together, and with both of us ending up on the school board for many years. When John was asked, he never said no. He would help with whatever you needed. He went from that parent volunteer in his daughter's elementary school to serving in leadership positions for the PTA, then helping to form the 16th District PTA, was just for Fayette County schools, and then becoming president of that. He was often, at this time, many years ago, he was often the only father in the room during PTA meetings. He also served as a mentor to high school students by having them intern at his accounting practice through Fayette County's EBCE program. In 2003, John was appointed to the school board to fill an unexpired term. Again, when asked, would you fill this? He said yes. His willingness to say yes was always evident. After that, he was elected to the board and served over 13 years, long after his daughter had graduated and moved on. John was still serving Fayette County. During our years together on the board, I was always impressed with John's calm manner and his thoughtful disposition. He was soft-spoken and polite, but with his words, you knew there was strength behind them. And when John spoke, you listened. He had a fun side, too. He had a quick sense of humor. He could get you laughing. And he may have appeared as a mild-mannered accountant, but boy, he could get you with a zinger when you weren't expecting it. A fun part of being on the school board with John was when we traveled to conventions. One evening, John, his wife Maggie, and I were searching for a place to have dinner in downtown San Diego. We were tired, we were hungry, the time zone, we're like way past our dinner time. Every place was crowded, and we were starving. So we were walking around, and we came upon a well-known restaurant chain, and they were famous for the minimal attire that their servers wore. And we were thinking, okay, but knowing John, what did he do? He looked at me, and he said, I won't look if you won't. But that was one receipt we never turned in for reimbursement. John also had a sweet tooth. He loved his dessert. When we had board dinners, he would always angle to sit next to me, and then he would say, "Are you going to eat that dessert?" Amanda shaking her head, yeah. Oftentimes I'd go ahead and take it, John, and he'd eat it first because you never could have enough dessert. John was kind and humble, and he did not do things for self-recognition. Right now, he's a truly servant leader. He's a role model for so many parents like me who were not involved and saw him and wanted to do what he was doing, wanted to be part of our schools. He's probably chuckling and shaking his head right now over all this fuss, but those of us who knew him and loved him think this is the most important thing we can do to say, "Yes, John, we appreciate you. We will always remember you." And Fayette County Public Schools are a better place today because John Price gave freely of himself, always saying yes, and making sure that the focus was on the kids, but encouraging the parents to get involved too. So thank you, Janella and John's family, for sharing him with us for all those years. And thank you for allowing this portrait to be here and this building to be named after our fellow servant leader, John D. Price. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. I remember those conventions, and we always kind of, had some great fun, and I actually saw our superintendent in a little different light than what we usually see the superintendent. I've hesitated whether to tell this story or not, so I'm going to do it. We've been talking about John's quiet demeanor and peaceful demeanor. There was a time as a board we met with the leadership staff one at a time of every high school. One of the schools, I will not mention which school, John got so passionate. This school was not doing well. He took his fist and pounded it on the table and said, "This needs to change." And I was like, it kind of scared me a little bit to hear that from John. So he had his moments, and he always meant business, and we knew we needed to take that seriously, and I think it kind of scared him a little bit. After we dismiss, the building manager, Heidi Reiling, will dismiss immediately hanging John's portrait. So you are welcome to come inside the lobby for photos if you wish. And I want to thank Heidi and her staff for coordinating all this. Be careful when you're outside in the lobby. Ramona can't hear the phone if we're too loud. In the Psalms, it says, "Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints." And John is one of those saints. Thank you all for coming today.